To all who crashed on this weird, bizarre place, welcome. We don't really want you here, but welcome. I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a Jacob. So hi, yes, I came up with a concept for a lost theme park with 20 rides plus other kinds of entertainment and attractions based on Lost, the super famous and wonderful TV show about a plane that crashes on a mysterious tropical island. And the survivors soon discover that the island is pretty strange and it's also inhabited by the mysterious others. So welcome to the Lost theme park of my own creation. Here is the layout of it. This beautiful artistic rendition from paint. The ride concepts will be better, I promise. I have like actual edits that I made to show you what each ride looks like and feels like. I actually edited most of them 4 years ago and now I'm only finally doing something with them. But yes, the park itself is round to sort of imitate the shape of an island. Is an island really round? I mean, it is now. It's round enough if you imagine that the island is attached to the other two lands, and the round shape just works better for a theme park than if I did the whole thing like this, like how the island actually is. The park is divided into 3 areas: Sydney and LA, in honor of the 2 cities that were where the flight A15 was supposed to fly from, and one, of course, the main part of the park is the actual island. Each area has specific rides and theming, obviously, that fit that particular place, which is what we'll be going through in this video. The concept for every ride obviously has to do with Lost, from the theming in the queue while you're waiting to where you exit the ride also. When you're on the island, the walls around the park give the illusion that you're surrounded by an open space. On a beach, surrounded by beaches, to really give the illusion that you are on an actual island. This illusion is achieved by using false backdrops around all of it. Like, you know, those painted backdrops that give the illusion that they are an actual landscape, like a 3-dimensional landscape, when they're not, they're just flat. There would also be a reflective pool going around the edges of the park, with sand painted at the bottom to give the impression that it's an actual, again, beach, and also to give the 3D impression that it's going deeper and deeper, even though it's just continuously shallow. It's like those 3D illusion ground paintings that we see sometimes. So basically, if you look around yourself in the park, you see the reflective pool as if it is the ocean, and then it ends where the fake backdrop of the landscape begins. And the landscape, of course, also has a painting of the sea, so the water and the painting merge, and it creates this illusion that the whole thing is continuous and open, and you're on an island. The backdrop also has the sky, of course, and those magnificent hills and cliffs and all of the scenery that we see on the island to really make you feel like you're actually there. Like any good theme park, it immerses you in a whole new world. We're here to give you a magical experience, an unforgettable day, and we're also extremely capitalistic, so we're here to take your money. That means we have hotels, merchandise, restaurants, all available at our park, and we'll go through these later also. Now, being serious for a second, I actually did work at Walt Disney World in Florida twice in my life. I did 2 different international programs that they offer, the college programs, and those were some of the best days of my life, for real. But it also means that I brought my cast member knowledge into this video and the creation of all these concepts. There's absolutely cast member brain into the creation of this fictional Lost park. You'll see that the inspiration for many rides and attractions on this park harken back to specific Disney or Universal rides. I'll even mention a couple of them so that you can kind of make a comparison so that I can better explain how mine work when I feel like that's helpful. By the way, a quick note about Lost the TV show just for my own peace of mind. No, they were not dead all along. The finale explains that so clearly. For some truly inexplicable reason, Lost is one of the most misunderstood TV shows of all time, even though it is pretty well explained, like I just said. And it's not just with the finale, but with the characters too. Like, for example, some people think that Ben actually sacrificed his daughter. That's literally not what happened. He thought that Whitmore would follow the rules and that his daughter would be okay. He bluffed and it didn't work. Like, literally just look at how absolutely shocked he was when that happens. And he even says something about how Whitmore was supposed to follow the rules. Like, Some people also think that he was responsible for the Dharma purge, when we're literally told that it was Whitmore who was the boss at the time, and then we're even shown that the timeline is real. Like, guys, come on. Ben was quite literally in a different location with his abusive father. He did not do that. He was only merely there for it and knew about it. Honestly, if you think either of these things about Ben, it's giving the same vibe of people who say they were dead all along. Also, like, people who say that Kate did nothing but be in a love triangle. She starts the show by literally stitching up Jack's wound, and then she ends it taking down the Man in Black, not to mention all the tons of things that she did throughout the show. Like, were you not seeing her? I've seen people say that Claire abandoned her baby on the island. Like, did you not see that she was entranced by the Man in Black? I've seen some really weird things about Jack and Sawyer and the bomb in the submarine in the end. Like, oh, and also the people who say that Lost did not answer most or all of the mysteries that they set up. Guys, they really did. They answered like 90% of it. To this day, some people talk about the polar bears, and that question was literally answered in season 2. Honestly, people must have watched Lost with their eyes closed, so they were not looking at the characters' expressions, so they don't get what they were actually feeling and why they were doing what they were doing. And they were also not listening, because most of the time, these things are told to us very clearly. I genuinely can't explain why people get it so wrong with Lost. I really don't think it's that complicated of a show, and it's just incredibly frustrating. I know a lot of people are frustrated that people that complain about the finale say that they were dead all along, when obviously they weren't. But anyways, I am sorry about that rant, it just kind of had to be said. But now that that's out of the way, you might be wondering why a Lost theme park specifically. And honestly, the inspiration just came to me. Let me give a huge shout out and thank you to the video that inspired this. Matthew Abels, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, designed a Taylor Swift park here on YouTube. And that inspired me to design my own Britney Spears park, since she is my favorite singer. This was during the height of the pandemic, which was the same time as I was watching Lost. So Lost was on my brain, and while I was sitting there trying to think of Britney rides, the Lost rides just kept popping up in my head and taking front and center. So yeah, most of the rides just kind of materialized in my mind's eye. They just came to me. Or I mean, the rides did, and the restaurants pretty much too. Whoa. So yeah, the rides did, and the restaurants pretty much. So then I decided to sit down and make a full thing to include attractions and hotels. On the show, the island is its own world, isolated from everything else. If you're there, you're living a different experience, and there is magic there. Only people who experience it firsthand truly understand the meaning of all of it. And a theme park, or at least an exceptional theme park, is the same way. It transports you to its own isolated world where there is magic of a different sort, but there is. And if you've never been, you can't really truly quite understand why people feel the way that they feel about it. So my idea of marrying the two things really felt like a perfect match. You could even say it was a twist of fate arranged by Jacob himself. When you think of this theme park, I hope that you will say, I like this place and could willingly waste my time in it. Just like William Shakespeare wrote in his pastoral comedy, As You Like It. And by the way, I did finish the concept for the Britney one. I even did the visuals for some of the rides. I actually think that one might be better than this one because the rides are maybe a little cooler, but it's also bigger. I think it's going to be bigger, so I never actually finished all of it. But maybe someday. In the meantime, definitely check out the OG Taylor Swift video that inspired this. If you've never watched Lost, I'm not sure why you're here, but go watch it. It's amazing. Don't believe what people say about the finale. And let's step into the mysterious world of, oh my god, I did not name my theme park. Let's just call it the island. Let's just the island. The magical island, maybe? Like, not the magical island, just like Magic Kingdom, maybe? I'm not good at naming things, okay? Let's just go explore the park. Off-island park areas. Sydney, Australia, and Los Angeles, USA. This is the entrance of the park. When you walk in, you can go right to Sydney or you can go left to LA. These areas are kind of similar to Main Street, USA at Magic Kingdom. They're a pathway leading to the rides in the other lands, but they don't necessarily have that many rides in them. They do have the largest concentration of restaurants and merchandise shops though. If we're keeping the idea that the island is sort of round shaped, like I said before, then Australia is the small right side and the United States is the small left side, leaving the island to be both sides of the main area. Australia, of course, is themed to look like Australia. You can see a version of the Sydney Opera House in the distance, obviously smaller, but forced perspective makes it look big. You can eat in an Outback for a fully Australian-inspired meal if you'd like. A meal of actual non-fast food, which is an important distinction at theme parks sometimes. Now, this is the type of logistics that I don't know if somebody who wasn't a cast member would think about, but you cannot have a theme park without a nursery, in case mothers and babies would like a private place. So here in Australia, we have the Turnip Head Nursery. If you don't remember, this is a nickname given to baby Aaron by Charlie. So from Sydney, Australia, you can either keep going to the island or turn left to go to Los Angeles, USA. Again, just like the Sydney area, the LA area is themed to look like the real Los Angeles. You have palm trees, you have the Walk of Fame, but the stars actually have names of the actors who worked on Lost, which is a little bit meta, but hey, it works. For eating in LA, you can try Mr. Cluck's Chicken, which is Hurley's very own franchise establishment. This one is a fast food restaurant, great for burgers, hot dogs, and obviously all things chicken, fried chicken, nuggets, chicken sandwiches, etc. And I promise it's not cursed anymore. Nobody's gonna die if you come in here, right? By the way, the price point of every food and merchandise item in the whole park is fixed. It will always cost either $4, $8, $15, $16, $23, or $42, or a total $108. Because of course the numbers matter here too. For merchandise, we sell everything from stuffed polar bears to those weird character bobbleheads, themed clothes, or how about a Ben Sheet bedsheet? LA is also home of the Shepherd's First Aid. Yes, this is the place to go if you get injured in the park. And of course it's named for the doctors, Jack and his father Christian. But LA also has a couple of rides, and I am very excited to finally start talking about them. First off, we have the Ferris wheel in the Santa Monica Pier area, which is pretty much just like the real life one. It's a classic attraction, it's simple, it's for all ages, it's nostalgic, it's self-explanatory. Then there is Hurley and Saeed's Great Escape, a ride where you must help Hurley and Saeed escape the LA police. It's a car chase dark ride based on episodes 1 of season 4, where Hurley crashes his car into a pile of fruit, and episode 2 of season 5, where he and Saeed are in fact evading the police. If you don't know what a dark ride means, it is a ride-through attraction that is indoors. It takes you through specially lit scenes that you explore as you're guided through them on some mode of transportation that follows a set track. And they're some of my personal favorites. They're super immersive. For Hurley and Saeed's Great Escape, you board a car with the top open, think convertible, I guess, and you twist and turn at high speeds on our tracks while whizzing by some famous LA locations from the show. Like you go past Hurley's mansion, the butcher shop where Ben has associates, Santa Rosa Mental Health Institute, and that iconic place that's overlooking the water where they all kind of meet up before they go to the church. And the church is in the ride too, of course. You go past it and you do crash through some things, so you do feel like the car going like this. You can even actually use the wheel, it's functional, to make it spin as fast as you'd like. So if you're familiar with Disney at all, think Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and Roger Rabbit's Spin and a teacup ride all combined. And it's fast. As fast as Snow White's Scary Adventures, which if you look up a video of it on YouTube, is faster than your usual dark ride. So, you're going through LA, you're whizzing by LA trying to evade the police, and then at the end of the ride, it opens up. At that point, it is no longer a dark ride, but the track leads you outside. And then the car accelerates and goes as fast as 108 kilometers per hour. Disney's test track goes at 104, but I thought 108 was more meaningful for Lost, of course, because of the numbers. This is a Lost video. So, you know, this ride is not scary, but it is pretty exhilarating. By the way, these pictures that I'm putting up are just to help give you a visual representation of how each ride looks in my mind, so that it's easier for you to also imagine what it would look like if it existed in the real world, and for you to kind of get what vibe the ride gives. So after you exit Hurley's and Saeed's ride, at the edge of LA, you can see what looks like an airport. It extends all the way back to Australia, which is actually the side from where you enter. So yeah, we're back to Australia for a second, because that right there at the edge of Sydney, there you have one of the main rides of the entire park. Oceanic Flight 815 Crash Simulator. It's that one ride that you have to run to very early in the morning, like get there when the park opens and run immediately there, or you know that you wait in the queue for like 2, 3, 4 hours. A queue that is themed like the inside of an airport, by the way. Because that's right, friends and foes, everybody wants to experience what it's like to be in the oceanic crash. And now you can do it safely in our crash simulator. You board the plane, and yes, the plane image that I'm showing you now is a legitimate simulator. It's not a real plane. You sit on the chair, fasten your seatbelt as the captain welcomes you to Flight 815 from Sydney to Los Angeles. You feel it start to move, you feel it lifting. Look out the window and you can see Sydney shrinking, because of course the windows are actually screens. Individual screens for each passenger in each chair, and there is also a large screen at the front that is for everybody at the same time. And suddenly the cabin starts to shake. More and more you can hear the sound of screams. Fake oxygen masks fall just above your head, not quite to your face so you don't actually put it, but like up here. Luggage falls from the overhead compartment, obviously safely. This is just a simulation, and that is all thanks to the magic of theme parks. And then the plane splits in half, just like on the show. You see it in the screen in front of you. The front of the plane gets pulled away, like sucked away, and a huge gush of wind enters, and you can kind of like feel how the atmosphere just got way more windy. The cabin shakes even more, and finally there's this huge boom when you hit the ground. And the heat increases by a lot when you see 2 fireballs on the screen looking like they're coming for you. And there you are, passenger. You crashed, but you survived. You are alive. So the exit of this ride is also kind of important because it is already like flanked by jungle trees. You can hear birds singing and you can hear the sound of the sea. In the distance, there is this beautiful landscape that goes all around the park. You're on the island. What I think is a really cool thing about this ride is that you enter through the Australia side and then you exit it on the island. So it really feels like you boarded the plane in Australia and got taken down to the island. Of course, there are pathways if you want to go on foot and skip the ride. But if you do it this way, literally the first thing that you see when you step out of the plane is the majesty of the hills and the horizons and the trees. And you feel like you're really there. You feel like you just crashed on the island. Now, if you would rather go the other way, like from LA to the island, the ride that is on the divide of those 2 areas is the Ajira Flight Spin, where cute little planes with the Ajira logo and the Ajira colors, which, yes, I added to the photo, of course, so that you can get the full visual, they lift up and go around in a pleasant, cute little circle. Thematically, it follows the same idea as the crash simulator. You take the Ajira Flight 316 to land on the island, just like the characters that left and then returned did. But unlike the other ride, this one is aimed mostly at your little ones. I say mostly because honestly, a lot of adults, myself included, really enjoy the magic carpets or the astro orbiters at Disney. Honestly, they're actually pretty fun. Unfortunately, once you're on the island, we do not have a freighter or a magical wheel to get you back to the mainland, so you will have to return by foot when it's time to leave. But for now, we have arrived. You are a chosen one. You are on the island. The island, main area of the park. This is where the bulk of the rides are located. The ambience is obviously all tropical. If you've ever been to Disney's Animal Kingdom or maybe Busch Gardens, you know how theme parks can successfully incorporate a jungle into their theming. You actually feel like you're there, right in the middle of a jungle. You're in the trees, in the rocks, rivers can cut through your path or just flow beside you. You can smell the flowers or the ocean, whatever scent they put in the air, in this case both. And you can hear birds, you can hear insects, you can hear the occasional distant roaring of the black smoke. On this jungle, you can sometimes hear whispers in the air too. Be mindful of the island's ghosts. You can also, once or twice a day, hear Michael's voice shouting for his son. Like I said in the intro, the false scenery backdrop that goes all around the park and meets with a reflective pool that also goes all around the park, they give the illusion that you are really surrounded by ocean and hills on all sides. Just nothing but beaches and greens. Speaking of the black smoke, let me first suggest you to ride the black smoke. That's the name of the ride, Ride the Black Smoke. It's a roller coaster. It's a very fast one and it has 2 loops. Or 3. It's really better. The people like loops, maybe 3. The coaster is all black. It alternates between indoor and outdoor. You ride through a thick, dark mist, which is a safe way to simulate what the black smoke looks like. When you're outdoors, it's like you're riding on top of the smoke. Basically, catching a ride with it. Like, serious question, have you ever wished that you could do that while you were watching the show? Basically, like Harry Potter and Buckbeak? Because I have. I used to think this all the time when I was watching Lost, especially before we found out that the black smoke was actually a person. But anyways, then the outdoor ride becomes indoor, and that's where it becomes a dark coaster where you can see flashes of lightning striking down around you because you're quite literally inside the black smoke, surrounded by it on all sides, just like Ben Linus was in that Dead is Dead scene. There was lightning there too. Hopefully you'll survive like he did. And for those that like water rides, I now present to you Rousseau's Arrival Rafting Adventure. If you remember, Danielle Rousseau arrived on the island on a raft. And that's what you do. You board the raft and travel the treacherous waters of the island, being tossed about by the waves and the currents. And at one point, it does rain on you because it was a stormy night. And I do recommend wearing a poncho on this ride if you don't want to get soaked. If you keep your eyes open around the riverbank, you might spot young Danielle herself carrying baby Alex. You might also see a younger Charles Widmore, who was the leader at the time, or a younger Van Linus, ready to defy the leader to save Alex's life. And you may see a Richard of the same age because, well, these are all very lifelike moving animatronics. If you've had enough of thrill rides for now, up next you can take a breather. Because there's our polar bear carousel. All the magic and whimsy of a carousel, but with cute, genetically modified tropical polar bears to ride on. Next up, there's another dark ride, which, like I've explained before, dark ride really just means that it's indoors, it's on a mode of transportation that follows a set track. They can be fast or slow moving, and they usually immerse you in a story that is lit in a way that makes you only see the scene that you're supposed to be experiencing in that moment. This dark ride is called the Temple, where you visit, exactly, you guessed it, the temple. It's a sacred place on Lost meant as a safe haven with healing waters. For this ride, the queue starts outside of the temple, and yes, it's a recreation of the temple that looks exactly like the one on the show. And the line in the queue actually goes through those big temple doors. That's where you're told by an animatronic master of the temple, Dogen, that you have been chosen for the very rare chance to actually visit the temple without being necessarily part of the others. You embark on your ride vehicle and you go through the temple, built to look exactly like the one on the show. You see the Egyptian hieroglyphs, the room with the healing water, but of course, things never go smoothly on these types of expeditions. The black smoke manages to sneak its way into the temple for the first time ever, and it attacks. Just like on season 6, episode 6. You feel the ground shake, your vehicle accelerates as it desperately tries to escape. It dodges falling pillars, crumbling ceilings. Eventually the ground caves and you kind of tilt down, you go down, and you weave through the hallways and secret passageways. As you're being chased, you can hear the smoke getting close to you. And then finally you end up back outside the temple from the other end. And you're safe. If there's a real life a ride that is similar to this, I guess I would say the best comparison is probably Dinosaur on Animal Kingdom or Indiana Jones Adventure in Disneyland, California. And then to chill after such an adventure, you can go on the Galaga, which is a submarine ride. It's really like a regular real submarine. It sinks into one of our deep pools and it circles around like fully underwater. You can see all the real fish and everything. From the window, you might even spot that one metal suitcase. And yes, I did edit the Lost Galaga submarine onto Disneyland's actual Nemo submarine ride. That is dedication to the visuals. And how about the next ride, the Orchid elevator drop? Do you remember the Orchid station deep underground? Well, this queue starts on the outside of it, where it's like a garden, so the line moves through all of the plants. You see the Anthuriums, they are very important, and there is where a cast member is. This cast member will then call up the elevator that is supposed to take you all the way down to where the station actually is. You board this, which is a sit-down version of the actual show elevator, and you're just supposed to take a normal ride down, but there is a surge of electromagnetic activity from those unstable electromagnetic pockets of energy that are all around the island. It makes the elevator go haywire. Lights flicker, the elevator rumbles, and then yes, it drops. It drops all the way down, like whoop. It drops once, it goes up again, it drops halfway, it goes up, drops all the way down, up one more time all the way up, and then all the way down. This one is very much a thrill ride, like for sure. When it drops for the last time, you and your shaky legs exit through the Orchid station, the inside of it, and you see that somebody has been putting pieces of metal in that place where you're not supposed to put pieces of metal because they react with the energy and they explode to open the secret passageway to where you can move the island. And that's what happened. Somebody did that and dropped you. Yeah, they're what caused the trouble that you just experienced. Time for another water ride called, very simply, Island Waters. I told you I'm not very good at naming things. It's a log ride, which is a classic of parks. You sit on your log flute and you go on a relaxing cruise down the winding rivers of the island, enjoying the scenery on the either side of you. You go by that waterfall that Kate and Sawyer were in together, and yes, you can actually see animatronics of them. You see animatronics of other important characters too, in different locations, like you see Shannon tanning on the beach, you see Sun in her garden and Jane fishing, you see my husband Ben holding his rabbit near a cliff and observing you as you go by. He sees you. You see Jack chatting with Desmond, and these are all animatronics, and a reminder, of course, that these animatronics actually move, of course, and that they're very lifelike, especially with the right lighting on them. So anyways, your log flute keeps going. You pass some polar bears and some boars and some other island fauna as animatronics. Then you go past the Black Rock Shipwreck. You see the outside of the park's temple, which is where the other ride, the temple, takes place inside. And finally, you go inside a beautiful cave. Look up and you will see the name of all the current and former candidates written in chalk on the cave ceiling. Most are crossed off. Now, this ride is special because it actually offers you a choice before you board. If you want the relaxing version, you board on the right, and then from that cave, your log will just drift peacefully back to the beach where you exit. If you want the thrill ride, you board through the left. When you get to the candidate's cave, which is where the two logs diverge, yours, the thrill one, will go towards a hole on the edge. Closer and closer, you're getting closer and closer to the edge of this cave until you drop down the cliff. You drop out from the same opening that Sawyer climbed down into, and it's a pretty steep drop. Next is a ride called The Incident. It's in the same vibe as Disaster, which is a Universal ride that I am still not over closing. It was so sad. Like, it was such a good ride. It's a ride that is both adventure and special effects based, and in our version, it will take you inside of the infamous day of the incident, where Dharma drilled too far into an energy pocket and nearly destroyed everything. You are a newly hired Dharma operator on this ride. You will board the iconic white and blue Dharma van, just off on your workday on your first week. An orientation tape from the Pierre Chang himself welcomes you to Dharma and tells you what it is that you'll be working on, which is the drilling of the energy pockets. The scenery on the way there is beautiful, but when you get to the drilling site, you can see that something is wrong, because that's where the madness begins. So this is one of those rides that actually simulates disasters the way that they would be filmed for a TV show. So they put you in the special effects that they would also use in a TV show. From real fireballs coming like very close to you, to the ground like actually crumbling in your van, ending up tilted halfway down into the depths, to tons and tons of actual water rushing your way, and it looks like it's gonna hit you, but it actually kind of goes under the van. So all the effects, all the elements are real. They're just controlled to be safe, like they would be on a movie set. Of course, it is a very shaky, very rumbly ride, like I said, with a lot of special effects, a lot of really amazing special effects. And please notice how I added blue stripes to the vehicle of the disaster ride so that it looks like the Dharma van. I would like to suggest a calm, pleasant ride next after all of these incidents. So how about a ride on Henry Gale's smiley face balloon? Small groups of people at a time can enter the iconic orange balloon with the little smiley face at the top, which yes, I edited that in. And the balloon will then float, just normal. It's a regular real balloon. It will take you up into the skies and offer you a stunning view of the park with all of its trees and the water and the rides and the people. And obviously, like any balloon ride in a theme park or in an amusement thing, it's tied with a rope so that it doesn't actually float away. And it is a ride that is dependent on weather conditions to operate. If you're tired of walking around the park, how about sitting down for a movie now? It's called Time Traveling Bunnies 3D Adventure, inspired by my husband and love of my life, Ben Linus, and his iconic line, "If you mean time traveling bunnies, then yes." Of course, Ben is only talking about the rabbits because Locke just watched one of Pierre Chang's orientation tapes where he demonstrates how to send a rabbit traveling through time. Today, you are sitting down in a movie theater to watch the same training video, except that you are watching the earlier version, a version that was filmed first and then had to be scrapped and they had to start over because of technical difficulties. While Pierre was filming, the bunnies actually escaped and they wreaked all sorts of adorable havoc. With the 3D glasses, you will see them hop all around you. There were some small explosions in the lab. Things got knocked to the ground by the running bunnies. But very cute. And aside from the normal 3D effect of things coming very close to you and you getting the impression that they're right in your face, it also has what sometimes is called 4D effect, which is, the environment also immerses you in their story. Like the chairs vibrate whenever anything explodes. You feel wind on your face when the rabbits knock over a fan. Water sprinkle on your face when they accidentally knock down a cup of water. And the best part is that you even feel fluff like rubbing against the back of your leg when the bunnies are surrounding you. It's a very, very cute attraction rather than a ride, I guess, with a funny 3D Dharma training video, the scrapped version, and cuteness overload from the bunnies, and a lot of immersive effects. Now, the Light of Creation is a boat ride inspired by the island itself and the island's function and purpose in the world. For this ride, you are actually the latest candidate to pick up the mantle of Jacob 2.0. So that means that now it is your responsibility to keep the world safe by keeping the island safe and keeping the lights shining on the island. So after embarking on our small boat, an animatronic of Jacob sends you off with his blessing, Jacob 2.0, go. You drift down a beautiful river and then you go down into the cave that houses that light. And it is a bit of a fall here, nothing like the thrill side of the log ride, or definitely not the elevator, but it is like a kind of a thrill moment. When you're inside the cave, you see the light shining, but you notice that it's dim. The boat circles around the edges of the, should we call that sink system? The part in the show with that plug in the center. So anyways, while you're circling, you can hear some iconic lines from the show. You can hear the heartwarming, the touching, or the funny ones. The ones that remind us of being compassionate and of friendship, of redemption, and of love. As you keep hearing those things, the light of creation shines brighter and brighter and brighter. And by the time you're finished circling the inside of the cave, it is blindingly bright in there. Which means that you did it, the island is safe. So the boat goes back up a steep incline and just drifts back out of the cave where you can disembark. This one is more of an introspective, emotional ride, I guess, but it still very much puts you inside a very iconic place from the show. Then we have Island Paragliding, which is a simulator of paragliding. You're soaring over the island. And yes, I use that word because there is no way to not compare this ride to Disney's ride Soaring. Honestly, if you know that one, if you've ever been, you know how really fun this ride also is. The simulator lifts you off the ground. It tilts forward into a screen, a huge screen that displays the beautiful landscape of the island. Then the thing that you're on that simulates the paraglider moves, of course. You launch from a cliff with sea breeze spraying on your face. You can feel it, you can smell the scent because yes, they do pump in scents in the air. The wind hits you, the scent changes depending on where you are. It can be like beachy, or it can be flowers, or it can even be like baked goods when you're over where the others live. And it's all very relaxing and enjoyable, and it really makes you feel like you are soaring over all these places. You really see all the beaches, the cliffs, the others village, the jungle, all of it from way up high in the sky. And despite the name of the ride being Island Paraglider, there are actually 2 possible trips you can take. So you should do this ride twice, because the other one takes you soaring from Sydney to LA. Is that physically possible? No, but the island also did not respect the laws of physics, so I didn't either. And yeah, you see some spectacular sights while soaring from one to the other. Oh, the next ride I'm very excited about because it is definitely one of the biggest ones and most popular, right up there with the Oceanic H-15 flight crash simulator, whatever the full name is, which was located in the Australia section. This is now another one of the park's main, most defining rides, which you will want to run to early in the morning so that you don't have to line up for hours and hours. This one is called Cross Island Trek, and it's a mixture of a classic dark ride. Just a reminder, a dark ride is a moving vehicle that goes through real, fully constructed scenes in fast set tracks that it follows, and it combines that with new modern video screens rather, where the screens are integrated to be part of the scenery. Because the dark ride, actually they build the actual scenery, it's all really constructed, but this one incorporates screens to sort of enhance the construction. So you know, the screens are very integrated into the environment, so they look like they're part of it. I hope that makes sense. Think of Harry Potter's The Forbidden Journey at Wizarding World. That's like exactly the style that I'm talking about. And that's for sure my main inspiration for this very big, very immersive ride. In Cross Island Trek, you board Dharma's latest exploration vehicle. You board it along with Jack, Kate, and Sawyer. They're boarding another vehicle that is on a screen in front of you, and they're actually talking to you, explaining that you need to deliver a package all the way to the other side of the island. So the vehicle is off on a trek through the whole island. You go past the lit up beach where the survivors camp is, and you go through thick jungles, which are not just a screen, by the way. The landscape is a real, like physically there part of the ride. There are actually trees and plants and rocks surrounding you. You're approached and then bumped by an irritated animatronic polar bear, which sends your vehicle spinning uncontrollably for a little bit. And then when it stabilizes again, you go past the entrance to the hatch, which is also physically present in the ride, and you see Desmond drinking and Charlie playing his guitar on a screen, and they sort of wave you by as you go. Then you skirt around the others' village, the barracks, where Richard, Tom, and Juliet appear on a screen to talk to you, and they're wondering whether you should be there or not. The yellow houses are really physically in the ride, just on a smaller scale, so you go past them. And a little past that, it's Ben who shows up to talk to you on another screen, urging you to keep going on your quest to deliver the package, no matter what. Then he notices something and he warns you to run because the freighter people have arrived and they're shooting at you. You can hear the bullets. Your vehicle like speeds up like crazy, going wild. It goes from the barracks to the radio tower, where you see Saeed working with Sun and Jin to try and send a message. The tower itself, like the radio tower itself, is also physically in the ride, but Jin, Sun, and Saeed are on a screen. From there, you re-enter the jungle only to get chased by the black smoke. It's like non-stop adventures on this island. The black smoke, you actually see it swirling like from screen to screen, and you can feel the wind when it goes by. Your poor Dharma vehicle is barely hanging on as it goes on a mad dash, swerving between trees, bumping on rocks, skidding down little inclines. You're only safe when you get to the beach on the other side of the island, where the foot statue is. Your Dharma exploration vehicle stops and you finally disembark, greeted by Hugo on a screen, happily telling you that you just saved everyone by managing to deliver the package. Since that ride ends at the foot statue, inside the ride, this is a good time to mention that the foot statue is actually present in the park outside of the ride too. It's not a ride of any kind, it's just a walk-through attraction and photo point. But you can actually go inside and see the tapestry that Jacob was working on. And another location that is just a walk-through attraction is the Others Yellow Houses. Yes, that's what I call it, not the barracks. Certainly not Dharmaville, it's the Others Yellow Houses. It's like when you visit Mickey and Minnie's houses, you know? You go on foot, you walk past the Sonic fences, you see like the white gazebo and the swings, and yeah, you can go take a picture in the gazebo, you can actually go play in the swings, and then you get to the houses. You can go inside Ben's house, it's open. You can see all of those paintings, you can see the pictures of Alex in different ages, you can see those masks on the wall, all the stuff that Ben had. You can explore the places and take pictures in his house, and you can even see that passageway on the bookshelf is open. You can enter his secret spy closet of off-island clothes and money and fake passports. And you can even sneak down through that narrow cave-like space to get to the puddle where you can reach your hand into some of the black smoke. This area gets kind of crowded because really only like 4 people at most can go in at a time, but it's really cool to be immersed in a place like this. Speaking of Ben's house, I want to go on a very quick tangent and recommend the show Evil, where Michael Emerson plays the character of Leland Townsend, who is completely different from Ben, but also fantastic. Leland has a levity to him, he's kind of the comic relief, and he is evil. Because Ben, he was never a bad person, like not really. He did bad things, but we could always see that he felt guilty. He had empathy for people. He was struggling a lot with the things that he had to do. And he felt like he had no choice but to obey Jacob's very questionable rules. Ben was basically groomed by what is essentially a cult. When he was a vulnerable kid, he was taught to believe that the island is more important than anything. Like protecting the island is the main thing. And Ben's need for power came from having an abusive childhood where he had no control over things, so now he needs to have power and control in order to feel safe. And even his manipulations are really, they're not malicious, they're kind of a coping mechanism in a way. So, you know, he had to sort of deal with all of that first before his redemption arc could like really kick in. He's a morally gray villain by the end of season 2 when he first shows up, or like halfway through season 2. And yeah, he's a morally gray villain throughout all of season 3, but even back then you can see that he has a softer side, a compassionate side. It's there in the little moments. And you absolutely can tell that he feels bad for doing some of the things that he does, even if he kind of pretends that he doesn't. But by season 4, he's really more like a morally great anti-hero with his own agenda, already on his way to his redemption arc, which is probably the best redemption arc in the history of TV, that ends with him being a genuine hero and a kind and empathetic and caring person, a good person. So yeah, Ben was never really a bad guy. Leland though, oh my god, he is unapologetically evil, and he is having the time of his life with that. His whole deal is that he claims to be working with the devil to make everybody in the world as evil as possible, supposedly to get them all on hell's side, more or less. So he's this sort of devilish tempter. I definitely recommend checking out the show for Michael's performance alone. It's wonderful. As I'm filming this, the show is about to head into the 4th season. And just because I know a lot of his fans already watch Evo, I'm gonna say that you can also now watch my very long deep dive video essay sort of on Leland too if you'd like. It is kind of unhinged, but I think I made a lot of interesting points. We talk a lot about his psyche, the lore of the demonic stuff that's going on, even some comparisons to real life stuff. So watch that if you'd like. But anyways, back to our Lost Park. There are 2 restaurants on the island part of the park. The first is a replica of the Hatch, reimagined to be a restaurant. You dine in one of these booths, of which there are many, rather than having all of Desmond's furniture fill the space. The second is a communal restaurant in the barracks, a replica of the cafeteria with the serving trays, where we see Kate and Hugo eating when they time travel. But our version has longer tables where you sit with other guests. It's mostly brunch type fare. There are also snack kiosks around the whole park, selling fruits, ice cream, pretzels, and many other snacks. In this area, there are little huts with palm leaf thatches for a roof, and everything they sell comes in that white Dharma packaging that we see on the show all the time. Sure, snack kiosks are not something you'd find on the actual Lost Island, but I don't want you to starve. I'd worry if you had no food. Unlike a certain Jacob who didn't seem to mind. This is actually the end of our rides, but it is definitely not the end of our park yet. Entertainment, characters, hotels, and one scrapped idea. Aside from rides and attractions, most theme parks include other forms of entertainment, like parades, musical shows, nighttime light shows, and I wanted my Lost Park to have something like that too. Lost, the TV show, doesn't really offer much that I can work with for this, so I had to rely on smaller references and think a little bit outside the box here. I met up with my personal advisor, the Black Smoke, and this is what we came up with. In my park, there's a theater that offers multiple daily performances. They have a ballet show inspired by Shannon being a ballerina and teaching ballet to kids. I don't remember if any specific ballet is cited in the show. If it is, then that's exactly the performance that you're gonna watch in the park. If it's not, then it's gonna be a few different famous ballet numbers throughout the day. And they also have a rock band performing cover songs inspired by Charlie's Band, of course. And yes, of course, they're gonna play You All Everybody. As well as other iconic songs from the Lost soundtrack, like Make Your Own Kind of Music. This theater is located in the LA area of the park. In the island area, inside Dharmaville, there is a piano where a pianist performs multiple times a day too, and that's inspired by the scene where Ben plays the piano in season 4 in one of the yellow houses. I almost included a luau at the beach, but honestly I don't think that really fits. Just because the show was filmed in Hawaii, it doesn't mean it has anything to do with their culture. Especially because within the universe of the show, the island is not Hawaii. So instead, in my park, there is a nightly bonfire with guitar playing and tropical snacks being served on big leaves. It takes place approximately half an hour before the final entertainment event. You can cap off your night by watching a water show. You know, one of those streams of dancing water thingies like the Bellagio fountain in Las Vegas, or part of Disney's Fantasmic show. And that's taking place at the main beach, where there are debris from the oceanic flight that you can even take pictures with during the day. Because you remember the backdrop that surrounds like the whole area of the island part of the park, and the reflecting pool that makes it look like you're really on an island? The main beach is part of those, just with more sand around the edges. So in those waters of that part of the ocean, there are dancing streams with beams of light. It's really beautiful in my head. And it finishes with fireworks in the sky, which is a subtle and very conceptual nod to that time the others looked up and saw the oceanic flight splitting in half in the sky. No theme park would be complete without characters walking around and interacting with the guests, right? Here we have them too. Do you want to have a meet and greet with Kate Austin or Jen and Son or Ben Linus? You can. Of course, character integrity is of the utmost importance. What that means is these characters have to really be believable, as if they are the characters from Lost for real. They must look just like them, talk exactly like them, have all their mannerisms, they'll know everything about the character that they're portraying, and they will never break out of character while they're out in the park, no matter what you say to them. It's the same idea as what Disney does with their characters, and including their live-action characters that are in the park sometimes. And I know, finding a cast of people who will look just like the characters from Lost might sound unrealistic, but if Disney can do it, why can't I? I also believe in wishing upon a star, or singing your wish into a wishing well, or wishing on a satanic ritual for. You can meet these characters at key locations. For example, Hugo is also found near his chicken shack. Jack hangs around the first aid clinic. Ben is in the barracks by the yellow houses. Desmond is near the bunker restaurant. Shannon is by the beach because she likes to suntan, etc. And characters who don't necessarily have a specific location that they're linked to can be found just roaming the island part of the park mostly, like near the attractions and such. Now for hotels. There are different price ranges depending on where you'd like to stay. The hotels are located outside of the park, of course, but they're part of the property and you can take a shuttle from any of them to get to the park. A shuttle, by the way, which is painted in the white and blue just like the Dharma van. The cheapest tier of hotels is a pretty cool one actually. Camping in a meadow in those orange tents. It's a rustic experience of sleeping under the stars with late night bonfires and breakfast with the whole group. There's a communal bathroom for convenience, of course, and you really get to sleep in the orange tents that the others themselves used during their migration. The second cheapest hotel is probably the best for a lot of people in terms of theming, because you're sleeping in the hatch, minus having to press a button every 108 minutes. And don't worry, you can take an elevator to get all the way down there. But aside from that, those sleeping quarters are an exact replica of the hatch, which means you're totally immersed in the experience. Just keep in mind that because of that, there are really no windows and the beds are kind of small. The next is our mid-tier hotel, which is a replica of the simpler and somewhat plain, just a very regular hotel that Ben and Jack stayed at in LA while they were trying to gather everybody to take them back to the island. What's cool is that you can also use Ben's hiding place in the air vents to store your own stuff. And you get a TV. For the luxury hotels, one is a replica of the barracks with all of its many yellow houses to really make you feel like you're an other. Or a member of Dharma, if you would like that. Yeah, it's just like the replica that is already inside the park, except that here the houses are livable, so they're in like full scale and everything. The parks are a little bit smaller because they're mostly just for visitation and pictures. Here, they're obviously livable, and you can rent one of them during your stay. It has the decorations that you see in the show, everything. The grounds of the barracks include, aside from the yellow houses, includes the gazebo, the playground, that one sports court, I think it was tennis, all of that. Finally, the most deluxe hotel is based on Charles Widmore's home. It's that very posh apartment in London with a doorman, the big staircase, the fancy bedroom. I know Widmore is not like the most popular character, so he's probably not someone that you're like, I would love to stay in a replica of his room. But that's the fanciest one that I can remember existing on Lost. Also, we must put some respect on his name. This man faked an entire plane crash with tons of stolen bodies just so people would stop looking for Flight 815. It's that level of extra that I can't help but admire. So if you want extra luxury during your stay, if you wanna be rich, essentially, this is the hotel for you. Now, leaving the entertainment sphere and the hotel sphere for a second, let's go back to the park, because I have one scrapped idea that I'd like to share. I initially thought of adding a petting zoo, like the one that you had at Animal Kingdom at Disney, if you took the train to Rafiki's Planet Watch. Ours would have bunnies, of course, white bunnies, in honor of the iconic number 8, our dear, adorable, lovely number 8. It would have black horses inspired by Kate's horse. It would have goats and cows. And by the way, did you know that one of the cows on Lost is canonically called Svetlana? Because now you know. And we would also have polar bears, of course. But then my advisor was like, you can't have polar bears in a petting zoo. And I was like, yes, I can. He said, no, they will maul the guests, like the black smoke would care about that. And I said, they will not. Our tropical polar bears will be friendly. Then he said I was letting my role as a park creator go to my head. I was becoming a mad genius and consumed with power. So, in an effort to not be perceived as a mad genius consumed with power, I'm scrapping the entire petting zoo idea. Probably for the best now that I think about it, because I think that having that many guests around might stress out the animals, especially the bunnies, and I would not want to stress them out. So that's gone, but it was a thought.
Final thoughts.
When you think of this theme park, I hope that you will say, I like this place and could willingly waste my time in it. Just like William Shakespeare wrote in his pastoral comedy, As You Like It. Because, my dear Oceanics, others, friends and foes, this brings us to the end of our tour. And that is to say, I hope that you enjoyed your day on my island. Tell me in the comments, what was your favorite ride? Would you pay to attend this park if it actually existed outside of just my brain? Do you have any ideas for more rides that we could add? Because I'm always looking to expand. My favorite rides, I think, would have to be the Cross Island Trek and the Tempo. I really am a lover of the so-called dark rides. Oh, but also the island paragliding too. I think that would be really amazing. But I love them all. I love them all. I would ride all of them like over and over again, except for the Orchid elevator drop. That one I would try like one time and then never again, because I know I don't like drops. Oh, and maybe there could be a water park too, like affiliated to it, a different location but affiliated to this. You know, with like classic rides like a wave beach that a wave beach? A wave pool, like a wave pool that looks like the beach that the plane crashed in, the beach that the survivors were in for a long time. Also a lazy river that goes around the island and you can just float down in it. A pool that simulates the waterfall and obviously has a waterfall. Plus a couple of Lost theme rides where you slide down in those tubes, either just you or in one of those big floaties. Also maybe an aquarium, but only if it's for conservation purposes, because otherwise I really don't want to trap any fish or other marine animals. That makes me uncomfortable. And I don't like it when Dharma did that either. Anyway, usually on this channel I do like deep dives or video essays about some TV show or movie or something like that, mostly TV shows. And I have what I think is an excellent one about Bin Linus planned. Actually two, I have two. And honestly, there are many other topics on Lost that I could speak about. Like there's something to do with the Man in Black and Jacob, something about how Kate was perceived, something about certain particular story arcs. So if there's something that you would like to see, definitely let me know in the comments and consider subscribing to see more of that type of video. Maybe I'll do another part someday other than the Britney one for another TV show. I don't know, maybe suggest something. Please like this video if you enjoyed the concept for my Lost theme park, the island I think I called it, or the Magic Island. Or give it a like if you would like to watch video essays, like deep dives about things to do with Lost or characters from Lost. Please share this video with other Lost fans because I actually think they might enjoy it. And thanks for watching. Mwah!